I don't want to know where my kids are. Because if I do, they don't know they're exercising their freedom. Like, they can't exercise their freedom. You have a watchful eye over you, knowing everywhere you are at all times. You're never on your own, so to speak. I want them to be on their own, always.
This is Virtuous Leaders, the podcast for based Catholics who will speak truth, do good, or die trying. Here's the show. You were in the NFL for a couple of years, while studying art at Rice. You were playing college there. I just love that combination. Which you are actually a really good artist. And then now you,
nor a football player, but keep going.
Well, now you're the headmaster of Western Academy, which is the coolest school in Texas, and as far as I know, the best. And I've seen a lot of different schools. And you recently introduced a seemingly controversial policy. If you could just summarize that for people who haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, the summary is this: we've always had a no tolerance policy for smartphones or any digital device being on campus, but because we've had numerous violations of that repeatedly, we now have, if the smartphone or digital device shows up on campus, we will destroy it. And the boy will be suspended. If it happens a second time, he will be expelled from school.
How are you going to destroy it?
I bought one of those metal scrap grinders, a little mini one, that's with a crank. And so, I look one of my guilty pleasures. Every now and then, I like watching the videos where the teeth come and they grind up the metal. I just awed by the power of those things.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I just bought a little mini one.
Is any idea of like the child being witness to it or having to press the button himself as a catharsis moment?
It would be turn the crank because it's
turn the crank. Okay.
Yeah, to watch each centimeter disappear with every turn. Yeah. So, I mean, but we thought about it. I think we'll figure it out as we go. I just know this, it's not surviving the incident. So.
Good. Okay. So what led up to this? Because that's pretty dramatic, right?
Yeah, no, it is dramatic. This is a long time coming. The perennial thing that shows up every year, multiple times a year, kids get into trouble with their phones. If it's not at school, it's the same group of boys at home doing horrible things on chat groups and whatnot, snapping terrible things to one another. It's very difficult to separate that from school because it's the same boys doing it. They're all aware of what's been said and what's been done and what's been shared. And so there's this perennial phone problem every year back to school night. Don't get your kids a phone. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. These are the reasons. It just keeps happening, and I don't anticipate this is going to dramatically decrease it, but it just keeps happening. They keep putting the phones in the kids' hands, and then will admit openly to me, I know it's bad for him. I wish he didn't. Could you guys just take it from, what is happening? Right? So this has been going on for years and years. At some point, I think last year, it started to become more apparent to us that these boys are being told by a lot of parents, just put it in your backpack, take it to school. Or they're just doing it themselves, one or the other.
Even though that's against the policy. That's already against
the policy. So it's like, okay, we've got a real disunity of ideas here, right? So the who's saying what to do what, I don't know. I do know this. It seems to be, and my sons who confirm this, who don't have phones but are aware of it, that not only my sons, multiple boys have confirmed. Yeah, of course, a lot of people bring them. Then most recently, and this is not the first time it's happened, but we, at the end of last year, we're like, what last year ended on a pretty tough note. A couple boys got in big trouble just because it started to get so normative that one of the boys just had his phone out around the fire pit. just like, yeah, this is just what we do. It's after school. Who cares? It just kept creeping and creeping and creeping and be like, we're not listening. Right. So, uh, finally at the end of last year, we say, why don't we just do a policy to destroy these things? Right. And then we're like, well, we'll think about it, talk about it. I was ready to push the button right then. My personality. Sometimes I need to be like, talk back down a little bit. But so yeah, I maybe exercise too much prudence in that instance. But at some point, early this year, we had an incident on a bus going to a sporting event. Somebody showed a video in the back of the bus on his phone that shouldn't have been there. Another mom was very upset. Multiple moms were very upset because multiple boys saw a very violent video. I'm sure everybody knows which one it is. It's very popular, very mainstream. And we're like, we're done. It's just over. They're not listening. Nobody's listening. So I'll give you an opportunity to listen. You know, we're serious about this, and it's not because we're Luddites. It's like, no. This is the repeated thing that always shows up, and it's highly problematic in your son's life, demonstrable in his behavior, and confirmed by you, parent, who I'm talking to. Like the bottom line is everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. So I'm just helping facilitate what everybody, and I think confirmed by the fact that like the tidal wave of positive response.
Mhm.
I can't commit, like you're going to ask, then I've never received this many emails of thank yous and sometimes page long thank yous and parents coming up to me regularly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Even parents whose sons have the phones, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
So many questions here. One, what proportion of serious disciplinary infractions are due to phones, related to phones?
Well, at school, not a lot because the boys up to maybe the end of last year are pretty good at not letting them be seen. Right. So they're pretty good at keeping them covert and us not hearing about them. So I would say at the school, I wouldn't say it's a large number. There have been the policy up to this point is we would just keep the phone if it ever showed up. There might have been maybe 2 or 3 other major, like, what did you do with that phone at school? Like how there, rather than just, I called mom to pick me up or something like that, it was more of it. So I would say in most 3 major ones with the phones, but that's because we're pretty vigilant at, and the boys are aware we're pretty vigilant of it, but yeah. So now as far as major things that happen outside of school, I mean, multiple a year. I would say probably at least big ones. I would say at least 2 to 3 big ones a year. Right. Yeah. I would say.
Okay. So the part I'm trying to wrap my head around, which I've been trying to understand for years, and maybe it's something that can't be understood, but parents have told you how we know it's bad for him. Parents who've already given the phone have said, we congratulate you on this policy. How can a parent have so little self-respect?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. I don't know if it's lack of self-respect. I think it's this, because I feel it in my own house, right? So, none of my children have ever been given a phone, right? The school they go to issues an iPad, and I have very strict rules about that in my house. And compared to the world, it seems insane. And even as I lay out these rules to my kids and don't give my senior in high school stud football player, receiving all the awards at school, and he's a weird kid.
He's playing D1 in college next year.
Yeah, he's going to go play D1 football. As a matter of fact, a number of popular local, like Dave Camel's Texas Football and the local Houston publication, they're doing articles on him because he's had an extraordinary football performance. But every time in every article, it's this kid doesn't have a phone. This kid doesn't have a phone. Right? And like I hate it to a certain degree because they always want to have my input on it. I'm like, why am I in my son's article? I don't belong here. Like, what is happening? I get it. It's just so extraordinarily weird. Right. And so going back to your whole question about the self-respect, to not do it is so countercultural. It is like saying, why did you chop your child's arm off? Like that's the degree of this. So parents,
Which parents are actually doing
top,
much worse than that to their kids.
yeah, no,
By the
they
way,
are. And
so
that's the most difficult thing to show. If you can, because the harm is invisible physically. Right. And so that's why it's impossible for them to see. And it's, it while it manifests immediately, like the real bad twisting that's going on inside will manifest much later in life, I believe. Right. In adult life, when they have been so non-exposed to the things that you have to be exposed to as a child: nature, fun, wrestling, play, getting out and riding your bike around the neighborhood, those type of things. And children, and then you have all the negative things that they will experience through that device that, like any other child trauma, typically doesn't manifest till much later, or it can manifest in real serious ways later, less serious ways when they're young. I mean, you're a psychologist. I'm sure you have seen examples of that, but like there's real trauma being done to these kids with what they are taking in, etc. Like the stories, and it's not what we were exposed to when we were young. Like we're all exposed to bad things. The level of what these kids, I would be traumatized as an adult exposed to these things. And it's daily and regularly. Like that's what these people don't get. Like it's going to have unbelievable consequences in their life. So, yeah. But going right back to, because I really want to make it clear, I don't look upon these parents as self-respecting parents. What it is it's unbelievable saying, no, it is this way. How could it be? The entire world says otherwise. The entire world says otherwise. Right. And if my son doesn't, he will. He will be excluded from a lot of things. That's going to happen. Right. My sons have missed out on a lot of inside communication, jokes, party. They do. And it's hard. That's hard for people to say, yeah, I'm okay, because I know the negative effects are even worse than missing out on that. And that's really hard for a parent, particularly moms, although a growing number of dads too, but I could go off on that. I'd go off on that for a long time.
So your oldest is in college now. Now he's independent, more or less. So is he reaching out to you now? Like, Dad, you really screwed up my life by not letting me have.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because that's always the fear of everyone. I just actually talked to a couple parents about this recently. That's also the fear. It's like, if we prevent them, they're just going to go crazy and want to.
Right. Yeah. Hear that a lot.
Right. That's the argument. Right.
Uh-huh.
My son, I would say 6 months into his freshman year at college, he called me and said, Dad, I got to say, thank you so much for doing this for me.
Wow.
He's like, and this was the event. I hope he doesn't care me sharing this. I don't think he would, but this was the event. He was going with his buddies in spring break. They were driving to Florida. Okay. And one of their kids had the phone and got a phone call from his dad. And his dad got on the phone and said, hey, you tell that driver to slow down.
Oh my gosh. Helicopter dad.
Can you imagine though? Here you are in college. You're heading to your spring break trip, and your dad is telling the driver of the car, because he can monitor the speed, he needs to slow down. Like that's I am deeply interested in bringing about adults who have the wherewithal to direct their own lives toward the truth. I am deep. Holy moly. Daddy still is telling me this? Like at age 20, like what is happening? It's so that struck him deeply. And he said, Dad, I can't thank you enough. Like he's been profusely. Nah, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have a phone and a laptop and all, but he does. He sees it, and that's my hope, that they can see it.
Amazing. I want to get that dad on my show. I would be just so curious as to what led to.
But that's not unusual. Parents are terrified of not knowing where their children are. Terrified. And I don't want to know where my kids are. Because if I do, they don't know they're exercising their freedom. Like, they can't exercise their freedom. You have a watchful eye over you, knowing everywhere you are at all times. You're never on your own, so to speak. I want them to be on their own, always. Like, that's what my dream for them. That they are able to live a full human adult life, making their own choices directed. I like that. What else can you hope for your children? But that is the terror and the false sense of security. We are training these children to be comfortable being tracked, like comfortable being tracked at all times of life. What? I'm okay with God knowing where I am. I'm not okay with everybody else, and nobody should be.
Well, it will make it a lot more efficient when we transition to the New World Order global state. I think that's right.
Absolutely.
But what you just outlined is a perfect example of this overemphasis on physical safety, which is disproportionate to the actual risk, and the underemphasis on the digital dangers. I think it's Plato who says that one reason why evil people are so successful is that normal people who are, more or less good, they don't even comprehend that someone could be so evil. So parents don't understand how evil the images, the videos they're seeing. So you mentioned trauma, which usually when people use the word trauma, they're speaking in like a colloquial sense, not a technical sense. But actually, you spoke technically accurately. In psychology, trauma has a very specific definition. A criterion, a traumatic event is defined by either experiencing yourself, witnessing, or hearing about death, severe violence, or sexual abuse. The things that the children are exposed to, that counts as a traumatic event. If someone next to them shows them extremely violent, gruesome video, that is a traumatic experience. If someone shows them pornography, which is very common, that is actually a traumatic experience. And some people do experience it as that.
I believe it. I think that's absolutely right. I mean, because, and you could even call that exposure, in my opinion, is sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. Like, even to see it and be shown it, that's an act of abuse, right? Because that child is not ready to see anything anywhere near that. And if you could just say, all right, what if this was a human being in real life in front of them doing this? Yeah, that person would go to jail. It's just that it's on a screen, but it's like, that's an abusive act. Now, it's usually perpetrated by his buddy, right? So, but that is, and yeah, as far as I'm concerned, an act of sexual abuse.
So maybe the most interesting thing to my mind about this policy is it's actually not that extreme in one sense, because your policy didn't change. It's only the consequence that changed.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And even that, I don't see that as extreme. If that the harms are what they are purported to be, and I believe, I'm convinced they are. So, like, Would anybody be upset if I grinded up the bag of cocaine that came to school? You know, they'd be applauding me for that destruction. Right? It's just like that. That is even the consequence, objectively speaking. I put that in my letter, is not extreme. I do not believe it. And so, and I want everybody to understand that ever watches this. I understand how insane this sounds. I'm not some weirdo that's living in my own realm. I get it. I get this sounds nuts, right? But I just have too much experience and have thought very, very deeply and studied a lot about this. Like, I'm convinced. Like, this is it's gonna take a lot to change my mind.
Well, you said people often have to like restrain you. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah, I'm here urging you on, like, keep going, Jason. Keep running with the ball. So what is the next step? And I have some ideas, but what do you think is the next step?
Um, as far as policy at the school,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, this, yeah. I don't know that there'd be any policy shift at the school. The next step, my next hope, and actually I've talked to a couple people about this, but this only changes if a group of parents makes it happen.
Exactly.
That's it. It will not happen if the school tells you to do it. That's stupid. Any school that thinks they can that it will not change. The culture changes with the parents. And I put it in my letter, until the parents look at each other and be like, what the hell are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
These are little children. We are grown adults. We actually have put them at a place where we don't have to give them these things. I'm not a commune, mentality guy. Like, let's form our little bubble here and just shut the world out. That's not how I operate. But it's like, but you do have an opportunity for him to have a bunch of friends whose parents are like-minded, who all agree to this. Like, if you all agree, and you all agree, what the hell are you doing? Don't put it in their hands and look at each other and say, how dare you put it in your kid's hands? Now he can't come to my house. If you got it over there, I'm not letting my kid come to your house. That's it. That's the only way it works.
Yeah. Because when you say little children, these are 3rd through 8th graders. They are children, and it just it baffles me. It genuinely surprises me that they have Snapchat. What is the psycho? Anyways, I could go on about that.
Yeah.
So this is
this could very quickly turn into a rant that I'm regret.
part of me really wants the rant, but I understand that.
Sure.
I've thought similarly that because this is how I see it from my end. I've mentored boys for 15 years. Typically when they're in high school, and what I've seen is you get a like really innocent boy from good family. And then and then what happens? He goes into high school, and all his friends get a smartphone. So parents were doing like the wait until 8 or whatever, and they don't have. And then they all get. It's like a wave, because it's like falling dominoes. Once there's a certain critical mass of these key people in the class, in the friend group, have phones, then everyone else just rushes in, like sharks to the chum. So
Yep.
how can we reverse it to where there's a critical mass of none of us have smartphones? So having like parent leaders of the friend group that like, hey, we're making a stand. We're not going to give our kids a smartphone. Are you in? Are you with us? Let's do this together.
Yeah. Yeah. There is no other way. Right? There really, truly is no other way, because the kids aren't getting them themselves. The only way it ends up in their hands is if the parents buy it and pay for the service and allow them to have it. It's not happening any other way. Right. So, now I think it also is, and I really want to stress this, it also is important for it not to turn into good guys, bad guys. Like, when a normal thing I hear all the time is like, good families, innocent kids, is like, oh God, the longer I live, the more it's just like, there's no such thing. Right. There are people that want to have good and give the best to their kids. And really the difference maker is just he who sees the truth and he who has not yet seen it. I mean, really, like, and truly from quote unquote good families, like I've seen all kind of horrors and all kind of greatness. And it's just like really what we're dealing with is human beings that, um, that just are kind of, agents of free choice. They are self-determiners, however, heavily affected by their environment, right? Particularly their parents. And, it's just kind of a big mess. So what I do, and I say all that because even in the quote unquote good crowd, the more I live, the more it's just like, no, really, it's people that just have been shown a little bit of the truth and those that haven't. Because and yeah. So, and then the avoidance of the commune mentality, like we're going to create utopia. That's not true. All we're doing is we're setting up the circumstances to give everybody the fighting chance to develop his capacity to choose the truth, the good. Like that's because in the end, you could set it all up perfectly. And I've seen it, and somebody chooses the wrong thing, right? Like he'll go off on a different path. I have 7 kids. They all do different things. Same parents. So I think it's critical. Like the reason the parents ought to do this, in my opinion, the error is to think because we're going to create good kids. That's not true. It's not true. What you're doing is you're giving your kids a fighting chance to live out their freedom as it is supposed to be lived out, right? Because that is something that I find is like, some people say, why are you letting those families in, or this is the good families up here? It's like, no, my experience shows otherwise, right? But what we can do is help people like set up a situation where your kids have the best fighting chance, right? So, and and that only happens in this. Now, this is it's going to be it. So I'm also a realist. There's the best we can hope for is at Western is that while they're here, the parents come to that agreement, right? We're not going to do this. We're going to allow this situation to exist. It's why they send them to Western, because this environment gives them the best fighting chance developing as a boy into a young man, right? It doesn't guarantee it. We make it very clear to parents, this will make your kid good. You just have chosen the environment. So the best thing we can hope for here at Western is, and let's complete that environment at home with this group of friends that deal with each other outside of school, right? And you don't have to mimic everything we're doing. That's not what I'm saying. But this one thing, this thing called a smartphone, is killing it. It's killing it. We will never be totally aligned. What happens at your house is not what's going to happen at the school. And to be honest with you, it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't try and set up little Western academies at home. That's stupid, right? But this is a fundamental, and I even had that point in my fundamental point of contention of circumstances laid out in front of these kids to direct them toward the good. Like this is a chasm. It is really, it's like, hey, this is a health food store, but we have a selection of poison for you. What? It's like this, that's a problem. So yeah, how it manifests after this in high school, I would say unless the school is on board, because every high school puts an iPad or a laptop in the kids' hands that, okay, we're what? A micrometer away from a smartphone. It's basically the same thing. But if you're at school with it all the time, using it everywhere, it's the same thing. So yeah, the schools would be one thing, but yeah, in the larger society, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Everybody would have to see it. I think, well, I mean, a sign of hope, and I'm kind of going on my rant here, but a sign of hope is the public school said no more smartphones in school. Even the public schools are like, duh. who were singing the praises of these things.
Yeah, that's
less than
amazing.
10 years.
I'm pretty impressed with that.
It is amazing. Well, it's just like, that's why my letter is like, it's nothing. Everybody sees it. Everybody. It's a terrible idea.
I don't
So,
understand.
yeah, I think maybe more and more and more people will cut to like the world. My hope, and I've told this to a number of people, I hope, though I'm not, I'm not advocating against smoking per se, but my hope is that it gets treated like cigarettes at some point. Like, oh, we found this is really, really bad for the youth. You can't have it until this point. Like, truly, I believe that should be a policy in the world. Like, these are hyper powerful tools that most adults shouldn't even have, in my opinion, but certainly the youth. Certainly. So I do that would be, if any real true societal change, I don't think it's coming from a grassroots effort, maybe. But my pessimistic nature is like, that's not going to carry the day, because it's just, it's just too worldwide prevalent. I mean, even homeless people on the side of the road have smartphones. It's like, we're really going to correct this from a grassroots. I don't see that happening, but I do hopefully maybe illustrations of it that pop up, like Texas made a big stand that's taken them out of public schools. If we see positive results, things like that might say, here's evidence we need to make a change as a society. So, and Western, we're doing our little part for our community. And I also want to make it clear, and I'll stop talking over this, we're not trying to necessarily impact on a global scale. We're not trying to get out there into the ether, because it's like, I don't have the capacity to do that. What I have the capacity for, and what I think I'm supposed to do, is handle this little community right here. Right. So, we are just focused on doing that, and hopefully these ideas carry on beyond here, and whatever happens, great. But I'm not a policy guy. I'm not a political guy. I'm just a common sense guy that likes this community, that just loves this school.
And a real man.
Well, I don't know that aspire. Yeah, I was actually hesitant coming on this because of the title of your podcast, Johan. It's like, nah, maybe. Yeah. What is your catchphrase? Die trying. That's
Speak
my
truth,
worst.
do good,
I'm
or
gonna
die trying. Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's right.
Same.
I'll die trying. I don't know that I will not.
Okay, one last somewhat technical question. Most parents would agree that their children should not be exposed to criterion A traumatic events. But what about a very specific scenario where the child has this device and he uses it to text friends 5 minutes a day? There's a time limit in order to set up in-person hangouts. Let's say that's one thing. 2, they can use it for music. 3, they can use it for, if they have downtime, to learn a language, like Duolingo, which is only available in app form, or to do like driving test practice. So what do you think of that scenario? And then of course they can like call their parents if they need something. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. My response to that is this: look, certainly good can come from this device and other devices. But you can say that about literally everything. Okay. Even things we all consider really bad. Good has to come out of everything to a degree, even if it's the most minuscule degree. Okay. And so my position is, look at the net positive or negative result. It's funny. I use this. What if you could take a pill that would relieve yourself of a headache? And maybe it's even so good to relieve yourselves of all headaches. There's only one catch. It takes 20 years off your life. Right? Certainly, the removal of headaches is a good thing. Right? but it's not worth 20 years of my life. Right? So the argument that they could do all these little good things is that it's not good enough. It's just not good enough. Duolingo doesn't count as putting us over the top. Setting up friends, convenience of setting up friends and not having to use mom and dad to, or just get a landline and make phone calls. Like, and somebody told me that's not even possible. I don't know. But I know you can find good solutions to these things. But then finally, on that point, I'm telling you, and I could be wrong on this, I've never seen a phone be successfully monitored. I've never seen it ever stay within the limits of where we say it's gonna stay. It inevitably, by design, creeps out of that. Right? It's like, I can't believe I found this. It was all no. I can believe it. It just, that's all that ever happens. So those 2 points, it's not good enough, whatever good comes out of it. And it will be, those parameters will never be met.
Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next time.